to the discussion from today. Back to the interesting presentation we heard from Jacob as well, Analysis Mason, saying how the maturity of a business, we've moved from CAGR of 13% for the last few years to 3% right now. And within that, how SMS will potentially move in terms of volumes, some of his traffic to some other channels. An interesting scenario, very important scenarios, but one that is also could go much worse if this industry doesn't take a full accountability, full actions on the big questions on AIT, on phishing, all the things that are happening right now to discredit SMS in the face of our consumers and the enterprises that are using it as well. We believe, in taking back from the last discussion, that crossroads, we are at crossroads. We need to do something. Well, you could also say that RCS, telco APIs, more things are coming to save us, but because SMS, and we've seen, is still the backbone and the infrastructure where a lot of things are going, that's the entry point for the telco industry. We need to look more seriously at the issues that we are facing with this. So let's go back. I might not tell you things that are too surprising, but that's where I'd like you to heckle me and be very interactive. Should we try a bit of a heckling point? That's a very low heckle. That's a low starting point. Yeah? You might work. I mean, we'll give you some more time even at lunch, but try again. Oh, well.
I'm prepared to offer double drinks this evening at the Extranet event
if you heckle me, double drinks.
Really loudly.
Or only water this evening. I actually would put it there even better. Only water or heckle. But we've saved a lot of money for tonight, it seems. But so let's look at the future of SMS and a framework we'd like to discuss with you. Sham cannot be here, but another member of our team would have loved, is in Dubai right now, would have loved to come and discuss. We have a specific team working on these, on the assumption from our members as well, that things are coming to a critical juncture. We've heard it before, Google is only one of them, but American Express, you can mention many more of the big OTT and other players in the enterprise that are officially say that we're not going to be using SMS for a multiplicity of reasons, commercial reasons. One of them is pricing. I recently learned that the price of an A2P SMS in Toga is, that's a good question. Let's see who it could be. What's the SMS price in Toga? I think I can imagine potentially here, Nick Lane might know it as well from over there, or maybe Sam Barker, but 50 cents. 50 cents for an termination of an SMS. And how much does a kilo or a loaf of bread cost? 45. Did I hear 45? I heard 40. So yes. So 1 kilo of bread versus 1 SMS. That's a pricing that we are now seeing in this industry. Hence some of the reaction for some of the players out there. And not only that, it is obviously high rates of fraud for consumers go well outside the prices, and we unfortunately, good news in some countries where I should not play down the good and positive efforts that are done in some countries. Otherwise, but nevertheless, we still see big impacts on fraud, and as getting more and more sophisticated tools to attack us. And AIT, this industry is unfortunately doing something which is discrediting itself in the face of its own customers. Artificial traffic. And we're also in questions of competition from other channels, which is healthy, but SMS is still there for a bit. I'd like to say that SMS and SS7 was officialized in 1977. People like me would say that that's a spring chicken. Nevertheless, it's got its age. It's starting to feel a bit of a review of bits and pieces. Nevertheless, it's still, so many times we've talked about SMS being replaced, and it's never been replaced so easily and quickly. I think we might be at a critical juncture. I don't know how many life this cat has got, how many bounces it can do, but there are so many times you can risk your life without actually paying for it at one point and another. So that's a big call for action. And the action comes from you, but comes back as a MEF members. You can tell us what to do, because unless we do something to increase the protection in this industry and all this, we might be at a real risk in the end of seeing what we're now seeing as small changes in SMS being faster and more considerate impact in your bottom line. But I also think, looking at the consumer point of view, SMS is an incredible value for the universality, for the affordability, and for the acceptance of the use cases that we currently have. We should not be throwing the baby in the bathwater, this metaphor, probably applicable here, because it is good, it's a good business, but if we keep on doing the things we are doing in this industry, we might not have an industry to refer to for a long time. So, time to take a bit of a sober but realistic view of what's happening right now. So, help to, how do we still protect the future of SMS? We'll talk about all the fantastic things that are coming, and they are coming. But how do we do these things? How do we protect the customer from fraud? How do we bring back trust for the enterprises in this market? Because we have tarnished some of those relationships recently with AIT. How do we bring fairness in competition in a market where the bad players have got an unfair advantage in doing all the things at a cheaper rate, and where procurements, we've heard today in the last panel, is simply looking at a number. How much can you offer me the SMS per delivery? How is that realistic? Can we make it better? And also transparency for stakeholders. We do have here, well, we started the day with a home office, but regulators have been asked to be participating because there are things the consumers are not happy about. How do we make sure that this industry can have a debate and a discussions about what is happening, what it needs to happen to other parts of the industry in a fair, protective, but even still accountable manners? I think these four corners are the basis of what we call the framework the MEF is trying to build. But this MEF framework, which we would like to go and talk to mobile operators, we have a few in the room right now, we would like to go to them and say it internationally, but locally applicable, make your own flavor, but why don't we look at each one of them and what do we need to do? This is a bit of a recipe book, but that's your recipe book. I would like this to be a conversation that we're going to have on a regular basis. We'll come back to the timing. We don't have all the time in the world, but we'd like to have this conversation now with you, start setting it up with your companies to make sure that we can respond in a much more appropriate, potentially, but in a stronger way as well, to the challenge that we're seeing here. I'll stop for a second because I said, heckle me, and I was a bit disappointed. But questions, challenges, if not, you're all signing this automatically. But, well, there is no details behind it yet. Well, actually, there are details. And we have 3 presentations showing some of the things that we're doing coming after me. I won't be here for long. But the idea is that this is conversations where you help us to identify what goes, what should be in each one of those corners. What are the ultimately requests of the industry, the code of conduct, the best practices, the tools, the regulatory self-regulations that we want to provide, and potentially internationally to accept it that there be multiple one of us.
Dario.
We do have a question. Lee? Yeah, no, not yet. Test.
Do you want me to sing a song?
I like that.
You'll be disappointed.
The Eurovision Song Contest is coming soon. You might be.
I get what you're trying to do. I see SMS as obviously just one channel for the operators, it's voice as well. But at its core is trust in numbers. Do we think that trust in numbers needs to be at the centre of this activity too?
Yes. That's my answer to you. Actually, I think it's how do you skin it. I think SMS is potentially the beginning, Lee, and thanks pointed out. We think that SMS is a critical juncture. We need to do something now. But that doesn't mean that RCS has got a much better life. I mean, RCS is just starting to discover the challenges, and potentially some of them coming from SMS. We even heard OTTs. How do we defend them as well? And in your questions, absolutely. As a matter of fact, this is a reference point if you want, but within each one of them, how do you protect your customers or your enterprises? I think a reference to the phone numbers and to the numbers is probably essential there as a tools. But I like to ask you as well, you Lee and you all, is what kind of things do we need to do? So what is the right thing for this industry to respond to those threats? And potentially looking at numbers, yeah. I would agree, but I'll let you drive the framework. We have Paul, a question?
So, yeah, just or else.
Or else.
So, Dario.
One second, the microphone is in now as we are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dario, so about a year or so ago, you had the event in London where you had the Met Police present with Interpol.
Yep.
That was possibly one of the best presentations that MEF's ever had. It was live. It gave you a real appreciation of where some of the problems lie that impact all four cause aspects of that. And to Lee's point, it does associate with the trust of numbers as well, because this goes beyond. We can only do the best that we possibly can. We are targeting, you are targeting, the industry is targeting organised crime. They are targeting terrorists. They are targeting people that illegally fund activities for misuse. We can't do everything. And that is one of the challenges of any charter that's going to be created. It's going to be one of the biggest challenges the world has ever faces. But ultimately, education of customers, education of consumers, maybe one of the closer activities is how you actually engage with law enforcement agencies and educate them better on some of the challenges that the industry is facing that actually assist them in some of their activities, because the Met Police is working with Interpol, they're working with Homeland Security in the US, across Asia. This is where some of the problems lie. So when one of the UK operators loses millions of, or effectively has stolen millions of SIM cards, plus 44 numbers, which are then being utilised back to commit crimes in the UK from Asia, that's not the fault of the UK operator. That is organised crime taking advantage of a system. So where does that come into this? Because that, again, links to the trust in numbers, but it also links to how you engage with law enforcement agencies.
Good point. And I think we need to have that. One thing we probably try to do, you heard today, our alignment, only for the UK right now, but with the Home Office of the Ministry of Interior, and that will be our channel to discussion with them. By the way, we do have regular call with the Metropolitan Police right now, so our teams are doing that. So we are trying that communications and in the back is happening. And education is always going to be there. And I think we need to challenge. I think the reason for these is asking what we, as a these industry, does in terms of what, on top of what everybody else should be doing. So I think we'll keep on asking about the education programs, the different support that we're getting from the enforcement agencies. But the question is what we need to do internally here as well. So accountability is everywhere, mobile operators, CPaaS industry, and so on. So I like to have that conversations. But the point is taken on both sides as well. It doesn't just end up here. It's with how we do it with everybody else. And any other interesting comments, both of them? Any others? So you were not doing so much on the heckling, but you're good on the interaction point. I'll let you. This is Tim.
Hey, Dario. Good to see you.
Introduce yourself for the two people that don't know you.
Everybody else as well. Tim Biddle from Cinch. So, yeah, very interested in this side of things, as you know, Dario, and combating some of the fraud in the industry. I think, having all these slices of pie, whatever you want to call them up here, is great. And certainly as you drill into it, there'll be some more slices. I think one thing that we see time and time again in this industry, which is far too easy get out of jail free card, is to say, oh, well, it wasn't me, it was further down my supply chain. So it's so easy to just hand off and say, well, I used somebody else and they did the bad stuff. Yep. It wasn't me, I'm squeaky clean. So I guess putting it out there more as a point, and we can discuss in the room, but supply chain is so important. You can't just say, well, I've signed up. If you're signing up for trust, in enterprise messaging, for example, it needs to cover your end-to-end supply chain. And actually, you shouldn't use any suppliers who don't hold themselves to the same standards and adhere to the same principles. Sharing that more as a thought for as this goes forward, I guess, just because I say it's a frustration. And there's a lot of bad stuff goes on in this industry all the time. And every time it's like, it wasn't me though, it was my supplier.
True, and the question, if it wasn't me, but it was somebody else, but the end up result is SMS is going down the drain, so to speak. It doesn't have to be so negative, but then it's still this industry is going to pay for it. So at this point, it's everybody's fault. And back to my point, you're right. And within those, our protection of your customers or protection of the industry or fairness of competitions, how do you make sure that supply chain is consistent and
yeah, because there are some parties who are only in it for the short term, so they don't actually care about the longevity of the industry, let's face it. It's the same as the ones doing AIT. They're in the telco industry while they can make lots of money. Once they've burnt our industry, they'll move on and they'll do something else. So if we use those suppliers, because we're happy to just turn a blind eye, it's a cheaper rate. It must be fine, even though it's half the price of the market rate. We're all grown-ups, we know that's not the case, but we just do it and say, all right, fine, it'll be okay. All we're doing is enabling those guys to destroy the industry a bit quicker. So I guess for me, it's a really important point to capture in there, not to enable the people that are actually causing the harm to the industry.
It's very good, and I'm also collecting here volunteers. I think that Lee will help us. And so will Paul, and so will Tim. We need all of those. We need to understand what that means in a potential framework. How do we understand? How do we do and monitor police? I would say something like that. And we have one more question. Is it James?
Yeah, James, GTC. So you wanted a little bit of heckling. I'll call this
Please,
gentle. MEF has obviously grown around the messaging space. You've aggregated a lot of the community. There's a big part missing, which is enterprise. That could be part of this initiative as well, because that would shine a light on what the actual enterprise and consumers are experiencing. How do you get to that?
Interestingly, we have enterprises in the world as our membership because we go banks, because they're the first, so we have about, I might be wrong, about 12 banks and financial companies, which are very interested because of they've been hidden and they paid, especially the phishing attacks were the first one. So we do talk to them on a regular basis. But recently, those conversations went to, let's say, OTT players as well. Some of them are in our membership, some of them are not. Because for AIT, they were also starting to pay the bill for things they didn't really want. So the pain point has been the main driver for these conversations, which makes me think, and heckling then is accepted, is we have been on the kind of reactive part. We waited for people to say, I really have a problem. Then we started talking to them, oh, yeah. True. I think we need to find a way to be more proactive. And sometimes it's difficult to talk to people that don't have a problem, yes, because they don't have time for you, but they're looking at other problems. But their education potential is all about, you're all going to have a problem if not. Equally, some of them are just potentially feeling a bit threatened and moving away from SMS. I don't want to say we don't need to scare anybody, but I think mentioning the right things could be a nice balance. Again, we have another volunteer, I hope, on how to do that. How do we strike the right chord of relevance without being scaremongering and say, move away from SMS? Hi, Nick.
Hi, Dario. Hi, Nick from Mobile Squared. Just adding on to Tim's point, also looking at the whole transparency thing. So when we're doing our research, talking to companies, we always get everyone knows who the bad actors are, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that kind of thing. And then we also know, that there are good companies with subsidiaries that are doing some bad things. So how do we kind of bring transparency? Because no one's coming out and saying anything. I guess legally it's probably very difficult to do this. So how do we get round this kind of, we all know who they are without saying who they are? Because that's surely one of the biggest problems. And maybe, as well as like the framework, the code of conduct, we too, as an industry for each company, should maybe be applying a verification tick so that the brands know themselves what that tick means rather than just saying we should do that for RBM.
I like that, and I think it's a very fair comment. I mean, recently I was talking to Victoria, our board member. She was asking me, are you happy to kick off our 250 members being reduced to 150? Let's do that. If that means that this industry is got a future. And so on. So I think and I think you've got a point. I keep on telling, and I don't know, who the bad actors are. That's what I've been told. I'd like to refer to what I say today. You're all bad actors in my way until you show me that you're good actors, because I don't know who the bad actors are. I don't see the numbers, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to say it with my hands on heart. I know because I don't see any traffic from my side. So if you have a point, if you have a concern about something, bring it up in the code of conduct. Challenge things. I really like that. Somebody has to be able to voice, not just to whisper, if there is a point. Because whisper and rumors don't work. This industry, otherwise, by now, should have been squeaky clean. And let's face it, we aren't. So I think it's a great point, Nick. I think we need... Ooh, this session is going to last 3 hours. It's okay. We don't need lunch. Look at me. A bit of...
I'll keep it very brief. It's Tim again. So actually, just a thought, because what everyone's saying is triggering quite a few thoughts, Dario. But SCCP carriers, when we're talking of fraud and SMS, they're not all members of MEF. But I will put the challenge on MEF to go and round up as many SCCP carriers as you can. And let's have a round table. And I'm not accusing everyone of being lacking diligence, but I am accusing some of lacking diligence. I'm accusing some of blocking the tracing of fraudulent activity. And there are very bad behaviours in that arena, deliberately or otherwise So my challenge to MEF is get some of those guys along. Let's hear from some of the good ones and set some standards in the wider SS7 part of the industry as well.
Great, and I like the members' feedback and members' action. So team, while you're going to be on your leave shortly, Nick will come back with a list and organize a roundtable. I like the ideas. I'll tell you more of the things we're going to try to be doing or we'll try to set up. We want to review the initiative we currently have and add new ones. Hence, this conversation is so important. And I don't want to stop it now, please. Keep the ideas coming. We are going to set up the idea is virtual coffees, calls with different part of the industry where we're going to be talking one-to-one really on what is you think we should be doing. That's going to be effectively in the next few months, June to July, and hence virtual coffee can be under the shade in the summer, on the beach, wherever, but we'll chase you and try to get your feedback. Because the idea is that we are in a rush and we want to prepare a SMS framework by, let's say, August, September. And we're going to be working hard on it. We want to have that list of things to be done quickly, so that by October, we are planning a CEO summit. We're trying to, it doesn't have to be CEO, a CXO, any people that in the industry represent the company to actually show that we are seriously about doing something. And we want to have a list of things. Instead, I see that somebody's shaking, nodding, I should say. That's our team from XConnect. He's helping to set them up. If you have ideas who should be there, please, let's discuss. So that's what we're trying to do. So that's where we're asking you to participate and to increase the attention. But in order to do that, we also want to tell you what we are doing on our side, because we haven't been, just resting. There's a lot of good things that are happening that could be better. And the first one that I would say MEF has really been acknowledged to have made an impact and a difference is the sender ID registry. So we'll come and talk to them. If you have any ideas about these, I'd like to share the sham@mef.email. That's Sham, which is going to work with us, is working with us on this. Send them emails. Send it to me as well, which is dario@mef.email as well. But starting with the good news as well, we have Stefano Nicoletti. Please come and welcome a new face.